You may be hearing the breaking news at this hour that Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg has been hospitalized today. The news from the Associated Press began as a one-sentence story. It said, in total, quote, Supreme Court says Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg hospitalized with infection. Justice Ginsburg is 87 years old. She has fought off cancer of the pancreas and cancer of the lung. As of January of this year, she declared herself to be cancer-free. But tonight she is back in the hospital, and it is apparently because of her gallbladder. The U.S. Supreme Court has now released a statement about it. It says, quote, Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg underwent non-surgical treatment for acute, forgive my pronunciation, cholecystitis, C-H-O-L-E cystitis, a benign gallbladder condition, this afternoon at Johns Hopkins Hospital in Baltimore, Maryland. Following oral arguments on Monday, yesterday, Justice Ginsburg underwent outpatient tests at Sibley Memorial Hospital in Washington, D.C. Those tests confirmed she was suffering from a gallstone that had migrated to her cystic duct, blocking it and causing an infection. The justice is resting comfortably and plans to participate in the oral argument teleconference tomorrow morning remotely from the hospital. She expects to stay in the hospital for a day or two. Joining us now is Pete Williams, NBC and MSNBC Justice correspondent, for the latest on this breaking news. Pete, thanks very much for making time to join us tonight. I appreciate it.
So think about how tough Ruth Bader Ginsburg is at 87. She takes part in the court's historic telephone conference call on Monday, the first oral argument in the pandemic. Then she goes to a hospital here in Washington where they diagnose this condition. She takes part today in the telephone conference this morning. Then she goes up to Baltimore. Then she has the treatment for the cholecystitis. And she's going to be back on the phone tomorrow morning, so she won't miss any oral argument. But you're right, her health has been the subject of intense interest. She had surgery in 2018 for lung cancer. She had treatment last summer for a cancerous tumor on the pancreas. I suspect one reason she wants to be on the phone tomorrow is that it's a subject important to her. The court will hear arguments in a case about whether the Trump administration can go ahead with its plan to give more exceptions to employers who want to cite either religious or moral exemptions, or moral reasons for not providing contraceptive coverage to their employees.
Yeah, an issue quite near and dear to her. Pete, neither you nor I is a doctor, and so tell me if I'm actually asking you something here that is beyond our ken. But I am very focused on two words in this statement from the Supreme Court tonight. One, that this was a non-surgical treatment. Anytime somebody who's age 87 is having surgery, that itself obviously becomes something that you worry about just in terms of the strain on the body. Also, that this is described as a benign gallbladder condition, meaning something that doesn't appear to be associated with any cancer. It's an infection related to a gallstone. This isn't something that's likely to cause continual or chronic health problems. Does that seem like a fair reading of what the court is telling us tonight?
It does. I'm not a doctor either, but I live with one who's been explaining to me that the cystic duct, which is what was blocked here, is what connects the gallbladder to the plumbing that in turn goes into the intestine to help with digestion. So somebody who gets a gallstone like this is commonly treated with ultrasound to break up the gallstone. Surgery wouldn't be the normal thing for treatment of a gallstone, and then usually antibiotics are administered to take care of the infection, which is what the cholecystitis is.
Remarkable. Do you think there'll be any implications, any changes that will have to go into effect to have the justice on this teleconference tomorrow for those arguments from the hospital as opposed to from her office or her home, wherever she would otherwise usually be participating?
I can't imagine. I'm sure she'll just tell everybody in the room to shut up so she can listen on the phone. But I mean, this is one of the advantages to do it by phone because, you know, no matter where you are, you can be in a Supreme Court argument. She takes pride in not missing arguments. She missed a few early this year. She had what the Chief Justice described as a stomach bug, coping with the flu as many people were at that time in Washington. She missed a couple of days, but she won't have to miss this one. She can do it right from her hospital room.
Pete Williams, NBC News Justice correspondent. Thanks for taking time to help us understand it, Pete. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure.
All right, we are going to keep an eye on this story. We'll bring you any updates as we get them this hour. But again, the bottom line here is that the Supreme Court has announced that Justice Ginsburg, 87 years old and all of about 3 pounds, underwent non-surgical treatment for essentially a gallstone situation today at Johns Hopkins Hospital in Baltimore. She was in oral arguments, the teleconference oral arguments yesterday before undergoing tests that revealed the condition that needed to be treated. She was treated today. She expects to be back in the teleconference for oral arguments tomorrow morning. Remarkable, and it just puts your heart in your throat to think about it.